How's it going, everyone? Today marks the 6 months of ownership of my RS7, and I thought I'd make a fun little video explaining to you guys what are the top 5 things I like about this car, top 5 things I don't like, and what it's been like owning a 2014 RS7 for the last 6 months. So let's kick things right off with the 5 things I really like about this car. And the number one thing is the styling. I really think Audi did a hell of a good job in terms of styling this vehicle. And to top it off, it's the Nardo Grey that really captures a lot of attention. It's such a unique, such a great color. But this in 2014 was something else. And the previous owner powder coated the 21-inch rims in black. It really complements the car so well. So yeah, number one really is aesthetics for me. I actually prefer it to the facelifted. I prefer this one to the facelifted. I just think it looks better overall. And now moving inside, the number two thing I like the most is the build quality of this interior and the way it looks. It's very simple, it's very kind of minimal, and this is what makes it age so gracefully. I think they really did a good job. It's around the years that Audi was really good in leading in class with their materials. And the best part about it is that after all these years, there's still no squeaks, no rattles, nothing really moves. Everything is solid 11 years later. The leather on the seat has held up so well for such a old car, we can say. And the fact that it has almost 200,000 kilometers and everything is still in such good shape really is a testament to Audi's build quality. And now from the inside, we're going into the engine, the number 3 thing I like the most. So this car is a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 engine, developing 560 horsepower, 520 pound-feet of torque. And this car is equipped with the OEM Sport exhaust, which when the valves open up, it really does a gigantic difference in terms of sound. But what's cool is that this engine can be enjoyed very nice, very quietly, very luxuriously slow. And while we're talking about the engine, the number 4 thing I like the most about this car is its fuel economy. Because it uses cylinder deactivation, which works really seamlessly. You don't really feel when it shifts between 4-cylinder and 8-cylinder mode. But the good part about it is when you're on the highway, you can get all the way down to 8 liters per 100 kilometers. That's almost 30 miles to the gallon. In a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 developing 560 horsepower, that is absolutely insane. So yeah, fuel economy is a huge strong point on this car. And finally, number 5 thing that I like the most, mind you, it's a 2014, but it was pretty technologically advanced in 2014. You get camera in the front, camera in the back, cross traffic on both front and back. You get blind spot monitoring, you get radar guided cruise control. One really cool thing about radar guided cruise control is that it uses stop and go. So when you're in traffic, the car pretty much drives itself. That's awesome. 2014, I know a lot of cars today come standard with this, but in 2014, that was pretty much a game changer. So yeah, for an 11-year-old car, I really think that it's technologically pretty advanced. And now we're going to the negatives, the 5 things I dislike about this car. And let's start with number 1. I'm pretty sure all of you guessed it. It's the primitive 11-year-old infotainment system. The good old days of Audi MMI. I mean, they tried hard. I get back in the day it was good. Today, this is what really dates the car. But the worst thing about it is that there's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, nor could you have ever gotten it equipped with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. I believe the facelifted model was optionally equipped with Apple CarPlay. I'm not sure. Regardless, in order to get that, you have to buy an aftermarket module and have it installed, which I did. So yeah, it would have been really nice to have integrations of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto inside this car. And then the number 2 thing I really dislike, it's actually the thing I dislike the most, again, related to the infotainment system, it is the Bluetooth streaming in this car. It is abysmal. It is such a bad Bluetooth streaming system. Half of the time, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes for your phone to connect to the car. When it does connect, sometimes it drops out. Sometimes it doesn't. I went on a road trip. It was a 4-hour-long road trip. The car flat out refused to connect to Bluetooth. The Bluetooth did not work. So for the entire road trip, I was stuck at listening to FM and AM radio. It was a long road trip, but I'm like, cool, your Bluetooth drops out. I guess you can just go and connect to an aux cable, Nope. Audi did not put an auxiliary cable inside this car. But they did give you this. They did give you this, which is really cool. It's Audi's old school AMI system. Because they came out with this cable for one and one unique reason only. to sell it to you for $120, and it makes it absolutely worthless in 2025. It was worthless in 2014. It is equally more worthless in 2025. But then you're like, okay, cool, I'll just plug into, to the USB port that every single car has had since 2008. Nope, there's no USB port neither, right? In order to get USB, you once again have to buy this AMI cable from Audi, which I don't even know if they sell anymore, to get a USB port. So yeah, big flop on Audi on that end. Moving on to the number 3 thing I really dislike about this car is actually the complexity of labor and working on it. I do most of the mechanics myself. And the engine bay is really nice when you open and look at it, but there's not a lot of place. You can't really even put your hand in between the engine and radiator. Everything's really tightly packed, so any simple job requires a lot of labor in disassembling. Just to give you an idea, I had to replace the spark plugs. It's between 3 and 4 hours to have the spark plugs replaced because half of the auxiliary components need to come out. God forbid your injectors give out. That's an engine out job. Insanity. And then the number 4 thing I dislike, it's particular to this car, is the DRC suspension. This car came equipped with dynamic ride control. It's not air ride, so it doesn't use air suspension. It uses a conventional strut, but it has a hydraulic system. It's basically used to prevent body roll, control dampening, all sorts of things like this. The system, in theory, works really well. It's a very robust, reliable system. It does need to be serviced ever so often. The oil needs to be replaced. But the issue is that it's tuned a little bit too stiff. I know it's an RS7. I know it's meant to be like a sort of sports car, but at the same time, it doubles down as a luxury car. And I feel that the factory tuning of the DRC is just that touch too stiff, especially for our beautiful Montreal roads. So if I had the option, I would definitely have this car with air suspension, especially the fact that you can raise and lower the suspension. Good for clearing bumps, good for giving it a more aggressive stance. And now going into the 5th and final thing I dislike, it's the cost of ownership. This is a very expensive car to maintain. It's a very expensive car to upkeep, specifically the cost of the parts. They're exorbitant. I say let's go for a drive. Let's talk to you guys about the cost of ownership that I've incurred in the last 6 months. Talk to you about the different things that can go wrong, the things that have went wrong with my car, and why it's so ludicrously expensive to buy parts at the dealer. Let's go for a ride. All right, in the RS7, favorite part of the RS7, starting it. It sounds so good. And every time you fire it up, it's just something special. But regardless, let's go for a drive and let's talk about the ownership costs that I've incurred in the last 6 months with this car. All right, let's get the small things out of the way. So in the 6 months of ownership, I had to do the really much the essentials. Number 1 was air filter, cabin air filter. I had to replace the wipers. I bought winter mats from Audi for the car. I don't have the exact cost of this, but if I were to average it out, I would say it came to about let's say $600 with the taxes and everything. The next thing was the transmission servicing. Audi says this ZF 8-speed transmission is sealed for life. It's funny, ZF recommends every 80,000 kilometers to have the oil changed and the filter replaced. Audi says it's sealed for life. Yeah, sealed for the life of the warranty maybe. So I had the transmission oil changed. It was the best thing I could have possibly done. It cost me about $600 to have it done at my local shop. Problem is I had to reset the adaptations after, so I had to bring it to Audi for that to be done. It cost me another $325 to have the adaptation of the transmission reset. Next thing was I was getting check engine lights because of rich running conditions, and long and behold, spark plugs were finished. They hadn't been replaced in about 60,000 kilometers. And the spark plugs themselves were not so expensive. It cost me about $180 to buy them. Not the OEM ones, but the NGK equivalent. The problem is the labor. This engine is very tight. It's very packed in. So in order to do the spark plug changes, it took me about 4 hours to get it done because I had to remove a lot of auxiliary accessories around to just be able to access it. So then once that was done, I have realized that my oil, which had about 2,000 kilometers on it, started smelling of gasoline. So I was trying to diagnose, trying to troubleshoot. It took me quite a bit of time to be able to diagnose and troubleshoot it. Eventually I gave up. I just brought it to Audi. All this to find out that I had leaky high fuel pressure pumps. Audi was quoting me $1,800 a pump, plus the labor, basically somewhere near $4,000 to have this job done. Open forums, did my research. TGK offers rebuild kits for the seals of these pumps because 90% of the times these are the problematic factors in these pumps. Bought the kit for $275 Canadian. Took about 2 hours, disassembled the entire pumps, replaced the seals, slapped them back on, and long and behold, I saved $3,800 just by being meticulous, crafty, and reading on the forums. Do yourself a favor, do the same. And of course, to add to the cost of ownership, I've probably changed the oil 4 times in the last 6 months, mainly due to the fact that my oil was getting constantly diluted by gasoline because of the high pressure fuel pumps. So that's an extra $1,000 just of oil, because this car takes almost 9 liters of oil. So yeah. So once the high pressure fuel pumps were replaced, next on the list was the thermostat. Thermostat had failed, it was stuck open. Once again, check engine light. Thermostat cost about $500. I had the job done at the garage that sold it to me, so we came to an understanding where they didn't charge me for labor, because labor on this means the whole front end needs to come out. So that overall cost me about $100, which was pretty good. Next on the list, I have the drive shaft center support carrier. It's notorious to fail on these vehicles, and I'm getting the symptoms where I'm getting slight vibrations under acceleration. I bought an aftermarket upgraded one. It cost me about $500. Haven't had the opportunity to install it yet. That's next on the list. Did an alignment, 21-inch rims, Montreal potholes. I had to do an alignment. Other little various things, $100 here, $50 there, $200 here. It's all little pieces and bolts that were missing from prior services done at the dealership. And if we were to compound all this together, in the last 6 months, I've spent $4,600. I actually didn't even realize that that was the number until I looked over my little file. Yeah, in 6 months, $4,600. Mind you, it's been 3 months that I haven't had a single problem with the car. The last big issue was a breakdown. One of the coolant hoses had cracked. It was a $60 piece, but the problem is I had to call it towing because my coolant ended up on the floor. But since then, it's been a steady 2 to 3 months of no issues. Basically, moral of the story is, if you can do your research and do most of the work yourself and not go for all this price gouging parts at the dealership and all this, you're going to save a tremendous amount of money. Had I done all this at the dealer, it probably would have cost me more than double. But I don't want anyone to get scared from this, because trust me, you get a hell of a lot of car for the money. Like, when everything runs the way it should, this car is just absolutely phenomenal. It's a sleeper when you want it to be. Like right now, driving in comfort mode, nice and relaxed. But man, the moment you shift it down into S mode and you stomp on it, it's this. So this is one of the reasons why the brakes are so expensive. This is one of the reasons why the parts are so expensive. Everything works harmoniously together to make this a really special car. So yeah, this is just one of those mind-blowing cars that costs a fortune. It is fast in acceleration, but it is fast in draining your wallet too. But you know what? Man, I wouldn't have had it any other way. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Jordan signing out. We have awesome new videos coming out. I don't release many videos at the same time. You know, I like to take my time in doing videos. I don't do this full time. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. The support from you guys, the community has been overwhelming. And I want to thank everyone for being a part of this journey. And I hope everyone has a good day. Take care.